Okay, welcome. SmartHelping.com here. I'm talking about something that can be used on Google Sheets or Excel, but the concept is about getting QuickBooks data or whatever you're exporting. Let's say you have a software that tracks your financials, but you can't quite get the reports you want and you want to track it in a more specific way or on different periods or whatever and you want to be able to aggregate it into Excel or Google Sheets, usually, so here's what happens. I've ran into this, I don't know how many times I've dealt with this with clients, and it's always a headache, but there are some workarounds. And that's that. Mostly it's QuickBooks. I see it from is you've got all your different financial line items for, let's say you're running a monthly report for balance sheet or income statement or whatever. And so you've got all your line items and the amounts right there. But you want to see each month individually. You can't do the right report on QuickBooks, so you export it into, Excel or Google Sheets, whatever. Well, your line items might change over time. And therefore, now what are you going to do? Because you paste, say X, Y, or XTS here, and it's 5, whatever. And then next month, you want to put in, the same export, but now you might have instead of XTS, it might be XTRS or let's say it's XT, yeah, RS. Now the S value here is going to be down here when you export it. Now you're all flip-flop. The whole thing's ruined. You're going to have incorrect data. So what's the workaround? I'm going to show you how you're supposed to do this properly. And here it is. Now this is a free Google Sheet. I'll have it in the link below. You can access it, no problem. Free tool here. I try to do them every once in a while. So data dump, and we're going to put in example data. So let's say I have income 1, 2, and 3, and then I have um, revenue, cost of goods sold 1, 2, and 3, gross profit, expense 1, whatever, a whole bunch of these. Um, Total expenses. Then maybe we have net operating income or whatever you want to call it. Um, Taxes, net income. Okay, it doesn't matter. I try to follow just a generic income statement there. Um, but here's the key. Here's what you have to do. So this is actually going to be the summary. Your data dump is going to have all this information. Let's say one time it's got, income 1, income 2, and then etc. Well, you're going to define the line item here. And what you'll use to define the line item is your predefined list of all the accounts, and you can add to this as necessary. But as you add, it'll update. So now this is the best in practice way to do this if you're going to export data is you'll have your list of all the different potential line items that could exist here. You paste in your data, which is going to be in here. and the amounts, and then you can define it. So this might say something else, like, you know, testing 1, 2, 3, but you want that to be income stream 2, so put it here, income stream 2. And so you see how that works. You have to define, once you export data, you define it. And you might have, so when you export it from QuickBooks, you might have a bunch your line item descriptions here and the amount. All you need, if you're just trying to, and then maybe next time you just do the amounts and they're all always off, you can go back to here and remap everything, expense, whatever, gross profit. Mainly, the main thing is, let's say you just want to get the high level line items, you would just do, okay, I just want to see the gross profit. So where's that line item? I want to see the net income. Where's that line item? And you define it here. And now, if you go somewhere else, you can look up the value and then what the actual, here, you would go sum ifs. Let's say the values are here, and then only some of the values there if your line item matches income 1 or whatever. And you drag that down. So here's your static list of stuff that never changes. Or if it does change, you can add stuff here and then just drag the formulas down. But the formula is always going to look up your data dump versus what you're calling it. Now, if you wanted to report on a timeline, say this is, period 1, whatever it might be, period 2, 3, etc., that's fine. And what you can do is just have another label here. So you'll do your data dump in B. So data dump column is going to be your description you want, the amount, and the period if necessary. And that's it. And all you do, you'll dump in your data here. Next period, you just dump it right below, and you keep dumping it in here. And the main thing is you're just making sure the D is a period value. Like if you're doing, again, different periods, you make sure this has the right period in it, the amount, and the description. And then all you have to do is populate the line items here. Now, it's not super automated, but this is the workaround to convert QuickBooks into a summary in Google Sheets or Excel. Excel does the same thing, same concept. You have data dumps. You can manually override what the actual description is because they're likely changing over time. You're adding expenses, so you're formatting. You want it to look like this every time, but it's usually not like that every time. So you have to do your format updates or formatting mapping. Just do a little double thick here. And see, I'm actually taking a sum ifs on all the high level categories too. I'm not just summing up the individuals. That ensures that if you mark something as gross profit in here, it's going to come over here properly, and so on. And if you have to add stuff, you could insert rows. The drop down will automatically update with whatever you put in there, and that's it. That's it. You just put it in there. Now, if you wanted to try to automate it even more, what you could do is have a mapping, maybe a duplicate tab here that says map. And what you can do, delete all this. You can say here is the description that comes out of description from QuickBooks, X, Y, whatever. And you could say, whenever that shows up, I want it to be this item. Whenever this shows up, I want it to be this item. And then from there, if you always know what that map is, then here on the data dump, we can actually do an index and index the right name here if the description here matches the QuickBooks description. And you see I got no income one. Wait, income one is X. X is income one. So as I put stuff in here like XS, whatever, let me do if error, blank it out. And then in that case, you're now a little bit more automated. You don't have to, you can drag that down as far as you want, 1,000 rows. Let's say you've got, 100 line items. You'll need, 1,200 rows for a year of line items putting in here, which is fine. So here now we've actually increased automation. So instead of just manually defining a dropdown, we used a formula to look up on our map. And whenever you have new line items, you fill whatever the QuickBooks item is here, and then map it to what you want your main line items that are in your summary to be. And then it'll just flow here, and then you could literally, we'll do, hold on. You could do an advanced formula on these. So this is summing that. Also only sum if, the period column is equal to whatever you got in the period. And again, this is just something free, so I'm not that concerned with, as long as you just know what's going on here, you get the value. So I guess sum that up like this, drag it down. Put in our rows. Now, let's say this is 50, all from period 1. Okay, so now you can see $44 for income 1. I have test 1, 2, 3 is at map, so I would say, okay, test 1, 2, 3 is gross profit. Okay, so none of that's coming in there. So you got gross profit in here. And the nice thing about doing it this way is you actually prevent errors by making sure what you've mapped to the gross profit revenue equals individual items. Now, if everything's just labeled revenue, that's fine. You can say, okay, this is a revenue, this is a revenue item, this is an expense item, it's cost of goods sold. Oh, shoot. Didn't mean to wreck the formulas. You go to your mapping and do it. Say this is revenue, cost of goods sold. Let's say expense item. So the key is you're breaking away from, you're allowing the QuickBooks to be exported in here every time. These would be the export columns. looking up the line item based on the mapping that you maintain. Every time you get a new line item that's not already there, you need to say from QuickBooks, you need to say what it's supposed to map to here. It goes through, and then you'll see totals coming through here. And QuickBooks is never going to give you like an expense item, but not the total expenses line item. So this is a good way to know, okay, something's wrong here. I haven't mapped it correctly. Because that will never, those always should match. Your total expenses should always equal the individual expense totals. Now, if you don't care and you're just worried about the high level line items, that's fine. Just mark everything as either revenue, a cost of goods sold, or a gross profit, or total expense, or net operating income, or net income. And then those will just fill in based on what you've put in. Lots of flexibility. The point is this makes it really flexible. You can deal with all the, just make sure I did this net operating income. Just want to double check. Change this to HH. Just make sure the formulas are working. Okay, good. Net operating income period 2. So that's all accounted for. Okay, good. Well, that's it. And this is free, so it's not super cleaned up and nice, but you get the idea. You can use this. You can build from it. You've got a mapping tab. You put all the data in here. The actual line item you want the data amount to map to is based on your mapping. This formula here does it for you every time you paste in new data. You just want description, amount, period, and then that automatically creates your summary here in a nice clean format. So hope that helps, and I'll see you on the next one.